Hi folks, Will at LR Workshop. I'm going to be fitting some brake discs to my second Defender soon. It's the first time I've done so for about 8 years, so I'm kind of having a look at the brake disc market, and I've been purchasing some stuff. I've got Genuine, I've got OEM, I've got calipers and discs. In this video we're going to have a look and see, well, a couple of things that I think have changed in the last 7 or 8 years as far as braking components goes. And let's try and unpack some of the magic that is the OEM in this sector. On the left we have brake disc, front vented brake disc, 2014 made in Poland. There we go, genuine item. These are blooming expensive if you buy them outright. I was lucky enough to find these on eBay a few years ago for 40 quid a pair. And on the right we have this OEM version. This is, well, Delphi Technologies, synonymously referred to as AP Delphi or Delphi Lockheed. Down here we've also got, yeah, Lockheed written down, but also EAC. This is a brand, it's a UK brand that gets bandied around a lot. You're never quite sure whether EAC are an OEM or they're like an aftermarket manufacturer. And else we've got written on here. So there's the part code and it's got an AP suffix. So it's Delphi with an AP part code, meaning it's AP technology, but it's also Lockheed and it's EAC. This is the thing with braking components that's kind of a bit different than other parts that you might find. So it's very hard to buy braking components that are not OEM, shall we say, OEM, put those in inverted commas. You know, we've got Delphi, AP, Lockheed, you've got EAC, but I'm not sure about those, but they may be part of the same brand anyway. You've got Brembo, you've got Ferodo, you've got Mintex. All of those brands are probably, you know, people don't slag them off that much. They've got generally a good reputation. There may be differences here and there, you know, but they're not necessarily premium parts like people might associate with EBS, or, you know, you've got LOF clutches and things like that. By and large, it's easy to fit OEM parts and not completely get shafted by buying something cheap and nasty. The interesting bit comes in the fact that it must be a completely different part sector, because as far as I'm aware, Delphi were never the OEM, or AP, or whatever you want to say. I mean, AP and Lockheed were, but Delphi, I'm not so sure. They may never have been the OEM brake disc manufacturer. This is a Puma part. Okay. So, genuine item. We've got Land Rover written on it. There's the kind of like part number used inside the factory. Minimum thickness 22 mils, and there, Brembo. So OEM brake discs for a Defender, at least in the Puma era, because OEM changes throughout production, is Brembo. But you can't buy Brembo parts. You can't buy these without buying a Genuine. And that's what's really interesting about OEM. These are called OEM. They may have been OEM for a Defender in the past, in the 90s, for example. Either AP or Delphi or what have you may have been an AP supplier to Land Rover. And that's maybe why they're referred to as they are an OEM. They are an OEM of brake components, but they may not have been the OEM for Land Rover. And that's where it gets a bit weird. So that's normally where you get a substandard part coming into the parts industry. But here, this part from Delphi, so where's the markings on here? Got that there. Delphi Technologies, part number, minimum thickness, 22 millimeters, blah, blah, blah. These are actually identical. Now, I can't say they're actually identical in their kind of manufacture, design, spec. The only difference I've really seen is that the chamfer on this edge here, slightly smaller than this chamfer here. That's the only difference I've seen between the two. So it's not, I mean, it's not hard to reverse engineer something like this into something like this. But presumably they've got the tooling already set up. Maybe they did make these for Land Rover at some time in the past. So them being an OEM, it's kind of, you know, it's warranted maybe in that respect. But this is the ambiguity of being called OEM. They are an OEM, but they just may not be an OEM for Land Rover. Therefore, they're called OEM. I could go on about this. I need to do another video probably about the whole rest of the parts industry with OEM. But suffice to say, it's very easy to buy OEM components for a Defender. OEM style, meaning better than the cheapest rubbish. You can't go wrong with brake discs, really. These are interesting now. This is a coating called Geomet. This didn't really exist about 8 years ago. And supposedly it's a coating that reduces corrosion on your brake discs. I cannot help but think it's only a marketing ploy, because apparently on the website it says it's 8 microns thick. Well, it's going to rub off as soon as you start applying the brakes. It'll be gone within a dozen miles, I would have thought. So kind of what's the point? Brake discs corrode. That's what they do. It's bare metal. So I don't know if they're just referring to these parts or the internal channels that they're not going to corrode as much. But I just, honestly, I cannot see the point, to be honest, other than being in a marketing ploy and trying to get people to buy their product because it looks very shiny and a bit blingy. I'll be interested to see how these perform actually when they go on the vehicle for that reason. So if these are OEM and may or may not have been OEM for Land Rover, why can't we buy the Brembo parts? Well, this is where we get into the murky world of OEMs. It all comes down to the contract that Land Rover sign with the OEM when they produce the part. More often than not, whenever Land Rover can get away with it, they will try and prevent the OEMs selling the part they sell to Land Rover to other companies or the public. For example, you know, wholesalers or the public directly. Because they want to be able to bring it through, put a brand on it and sell it. And the genuine parts will only be available through the genuine channels. There's two sides to that. One is the OEM will say, screw you, we're bigger than you. We're going to sell stuff directly. So you get that with Wabco, for example. You can get Wabco vacuum pumps and things. You can get Ford parts from Oco Parts directly from Ford. You don't have to get them through Land Rover. And thanks to all the people on LR Workshop that put in all the OEM part numbers into LR Workshop in the comments and what have you, because it's great there because we can get alternative sources. We can actually find this information. It's great that people are adding that content, so thank you. So it's very common with bearings as well, Timken and NSK, for example. Those are probably the situations where an OEM produces a range of parts and Land Rover buys from a catalogue in bulk. And those are the ones where Land Rover don't really have any leverage because they're already buying a predefined product. Probably where Land Rover's got more leverage is when they need a part made for their specific situation to a specific specification, and they need it designed by or outsourced essentially by the OEM, and then they buy it in directly. I know there were some problems probably about 4 years ago with Trico, however it's pronounced, who produce wiper blades and wiper arms. They were wanting to sell, basically all makes were trying to buy Trico parts directly from Trico. Land Rover were trying to implement their contract which said Trico couldn't do that. So there was a bit of an argument about that. So Land Rover do try and enforce that because they do want some OEM stuff where they can enforce it, I'm pretty sure. And it's probably where Land Rover think they can get away with, or where they think they've got the leverage. Certainly, I mean, we just have a look up here. Seats, you know, and trim and headlining, all that kind of stuff. They were made by Cab Auto, I believe, a company in the West Midlands. You try and buy Cab Auto stuff directly, no chance. You know, they've probably got a direct relationship. They're probably quite a small outfit in the West Midlands, relatively, and Land Rover's just got them over a barrel. You cannot buy this stuff without going directly through Land Rover or getting new takeoff seats, trim, that kind of stuff. At least to, you know, what we would define as OEM quality. So, all that being said, given that there are so many OEMs in the braking space, I'm quite comfortable, you know, buying these OEM parts and knowing they'll be of sufficient quality. You can't really do it with a lot of other parts. Any parts are a real nightmare, particularly 300 TDIs. But it's interesting to at least get these two next to each other and see some of the differences. And we can fully define that Brembo are the OEM, at least in the Puma era. If anyone knows about Delphi, AP, Lockheed, EAC, and that whole conglomeration of brands, what may have happened to those in the past, then leave a comment below. However, let's move on to the brake calipers, and we might see something that changes things a little bit. These are front vented calipers. On the left, we've got AP. So these were bought recently, as per the video. These are SEB 500 460. These 460 and 470 part numbers are probably the easiest ones to buy front calipers. They're pretty much from 1994 all the way to the end of production. This part number will fit, and we've got a G suffix there. And made in the UK, genuine OE, shift deck. Now that's not necessarily a brand you've heard of before. We've got this strange part number along the top there, but when we look at the actual caliper, we've got AP branded on there. That came out of that box, I assure you. When we look at the genuine part, this is one of the later genuine part numbers, but it's effectively the same part as that. 2012, this one was. It was bought 2014. I've got this one in eBay, likewise. So 2012. So this, bearing in mind, this was made pretty recently, probably. AP. So we've got confirmation there that AP are the OEM manufacturer of calipers for Land Rover. Let's have a look at these. They're functionally different, functionally the same, sorry. This is like, that was a 2, that was a 3. Only slight variations there. This one's got a kind of a silvery sheen. This one's slightly got a gold tinge on it. That probably won't come out on camera that well, but I can't think of any reason particularly. Bleed nipples are slightly different, but that's it really. What's interesting about brake calipers is it's unlike brake discs. It's very easy to buy cheap. There are a lot of unbranded, so we say Chinese calipers on the market. I've seen rebuilds, companies rebuilding Defenders, blinging them up, sending them overseas, who brag about their use of genuine parts. And in their rebuild photos, they have got blank, generically stamped, i.e. no stamping, just blank, generic calipers on their vehicles. Oh my, and I just cannot help think they've got their priorities in the wrong place. Suffice to say, calipers like these are about 120 quid each. Generic, cheapy ones are about 50 quid. It's your choice, obviously, but I'm not comfortable buying the cheapy, crappy ones on something so important as brake components. The genuine ones are probably in the £400 to £600 bracket. So I think it's quite good to be able to buy AP there. I think you're pretty safe with some decent quality when you buy AP. Right, let's look at the rear calipers. Something interesting is going on. These are the rear calipers from a 110 and a 130 from 2002 onwards, which is basically the P38 Wolf axle. This one's a right-hand side. No, sorry, left-hand side. This is right-hand side. This is the right-hand side. This is where it gets a bit different. So this one, here's the part number. This one's Genuine Land Rover from around 2014. This one is one that I bought this week, and like with the other ones, it's AP, but then we've got this Shift Deck brand in the top there. This is one that I bought at Newbury. You can go watch my Newbury video. Bought this for £20, so it wasn't worth buying another one of these. 2015 this one was supplied by All Makes. And on the top here, we've got AP braking Caparo. So we've got another brand added into the mix. AP, were they owned by Caparo, potentially? Where does Delphi fit into this? Where does Lockheed fit into this? When we look at the instructions, it kind of changes again, because this one at the top says Shift Deck, like we saw on the other one. So AP owned by Shift Deck now. Well, on the instructions that come with this, it says 920 Liberty Vehicle Technologies. And yeah, Liberty Vehicle Technologies. And this is the instructions from back in 2015, and that says AP. So that was AP Caparo, and they had the AP brand. These are basically identical. The instructions are the same. So obviously Liberty Vehicle Technologies has bought AP, and they are now supplying the calipers. Calipers are fundamentally the same. So we've got 2015 AP, 2022 AP, and then Genuine from 2014. So yeah, AP OEM on the back, But that's really interesting. We've got so many brands here. It's just an absolute cluster fudge of brands here. We've got Delphi, AP, Lockheed, Caparo, Shiftech, Liberty Vehicle Technologies, all going into the mix. Please leave a comment below if you know what's going on. It's very difficult to know what goes on behind closed doors. But fundamentally, these are the same. They are the same. These are OEM calipers versus the genuine ones. Big thank you to the supporters of LR Workshop that allow me to buy these parts and do comparisons. If you're interested in becoming a supporter, then check out the link in the description. So anyway, the next step for me is to get these fitted. These ones are going to go for the rebuild of my first Defender. These ones are going to go into my second Defender when I get it back on the road with all new braking components. Let me know in the comments what brand of brake calipers you prefer to buy and whether you consider fitting the unbranded ones. Subscribe for more Land Rover videos in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.